changeling once and for all. Then a crimson blur grabbed onto him and carried him away at the speed of lightning. 3 generations of Flashes had seized the out-of-control Superboy Prime and were removing him from the scene at super speed.
We got him, guys!
Wally West was in the middle, his hands gripping the crazed teenager's shoulders. To his left, Jay Garrick, the original Flash from the 1930s, held Superboy Prime's right arm. Gray hair showed beneath Jay's winged silver cap. To Wally's right, Kid Flash had his fingers locked around Superboy Prime's left arm. His yellow costume resembled the one that Wally had worn back when Wally's Uncle Barry was still the Flash. Wally had donned Barry's classic red uniform after his uncle's death in the Crisis. Someday, perhaps, young Bart would replace Wally. Together, they shoved the homicidal teenager ahead of them. Superboy Prime's back was to the wind, so that he was facing the 3 speedsters. His cape and costume were torn and tattered. Blood drenched his face and arms. The wind whipped his hair.
Stop it! Let me go!
Superboy Prime's eyes flared red. A crimson beam zoomed at the Flash's face, but with amazingly swift reflexes, Jay Garrick doffed his winged helmet and used it to deflect the deadly heat ray. The beam bounced harmlessly off the inside of the silver cap. That was Jay's last gasp, however. The older man's face was pale and drawn. Sweat dripped from his brow.
Wally, my tendons are tearing. I'm not going to be fast enough for this.
You just needed help with the running start, Jay.
I'm sorry, son.
You did great!
Jay reluctantly let go of Superboy Prime.
Good luck!
He tumbled onto the ground as though thrown from a moving car. His weary body bounced across the pavement, taking its lumps. Wally captured Superboy Prime's right arm, taking over from Jay. Keeping up the pressure on this struggling teenager was like pushing a 1,000-pound weight, or Superman himself.
What are you doing? This isn't my fault!
The Flash had no idea where this duplicate Superboy had come from, but it was obvious that he couldn't be allowed to go free. Too many heroes had already died in the boy's insane rampage. He needed to be taken somewhere where he couldn't hurt anyone else. Wally thought he knew just the place. An intense yellow light burst into existence before them, like a wall of shimmering energy.
The Speed Force?
The Speed Force was more than just the extra-dimensional energy.
We've got to keep moving, Bart. We have to get this psycho away from everyone. He's too dangerous.
But why did he do that? Who is he?
I wish I knew.
Superboy Prime's back was against the wall of yellow energy, which moved with the speeding trio as they circled the globe. The 2 Flashes strained to push Superboy Prime through the luminous gateway, which resisted their efforts. Even though they were rapidly approaching the speed of light, they still weren't going fast enough to enter the Speed Force.
Don't stop running, Bart! No!
Suddenly, another force gripped him, equal and opposite to the pull of the Speed Force. He felt himself speeding in 2 directions at once. His very being stretched out like an infinitely long piece of taffy. To an outsider, it must have looked like multiple Flashes, existing in a single instant.
Flash?
Part of him remained beside Kid Flash, fighting to propel the deranged Superboy Prime through the shimmering barrier. But another part of him was yanked back to his apartment in Keystone City. Linda appeared before him, rocking both twins on her lap, as she anxiously watched the television set. Matching teddy bears rested upon the floor of the nursery.
Linda.
She looked around in surprise.
Wally?
Clutching the twins to her chest, she stared at him with an increasingly alarmed expression. He appeared to her in a haze of bright electrical energy, vibrating in and out of view. Ghost images of the Flash stretched behind him to infinity. He reached out for her, his outstretched arm warped by the bizarre optical effects.
Oh my God. What's happening? What's wrong?
You've always been my lightning rod. You're what's kept my feet on the ground so many times. And I love you more than anything else in the world. But I have to keep running.
Where are you running to? That dimension that gives you your powers? The Speed Force, is that it?
No.
He'd been to the Speed Force before. This felt different somehow.
Not the Speed Force, I think. Someplace else.
Tears sparked from his eyes. He took one last look at his wife and children.
I have to let go of everything I love.
No, you don't!
With a look of determination, clutching her infants, she lunged forward into the unnatural electrical storm enveloping her husband.
Wherever you're going, your family is coming with you.
She kissed Wally with a passion more incandescent than any burst of lightning. Naked energy flashed around them. The baby's eyes took on a preternatural glow, tiny sparks arcing between them. In an instant, Wally, Linda, and the twins were transformed into a single huge lightning bolt. That exploded out of the apartment. The bolt flashed across Keystone City and back to where Kid Flash still fought to contain the murderous Superboy. The Flash's lingering afterimage faded away as the lightning struck Superboy Prime in the chest, pushing him farther into the Speed Force.
Wally?
Bart caught a glimpse of his cousin's face in the lightning before it blinked away.
Wally, where are you going?
Kid Flash suddenly found himself on his own. His hands were pressed against the Superboy's chest.
I can't do this! I can't do this alone!
You're right.
Only halfway through the glowing wall behind him, this Superboy wasn't budging another inch, no matter how hard Bart pushed.
You're even weaker than the rest. I've been watching you for years. You're a joke! You're just a stupid little sidekick, left all alone! Shut up!
Kid Flash punched Superboy Prime in the jaw 100 times a minute. Maybe he was no Barry Allen, but he'd always done his best to live up to the Flash legacy. He was buddies with the real Superboy, Connor Kent.
I'm not stupid!
Bart. A figure in a familiar red costume leaned out of the radiant energy and grabbed onto Superboy Prime from behind. Confident blue eyes gazed into Bart's.
You're not alone either.
The teenager's jaw dropped. He recognized the face beneath the mask.
Grandpa?
Barry Allen, the most famous Flash of them all, wrapped his arm around Superboy Prime's neck, catching him in a head